Welcome, everyone, to episode 30 of the What Sales and Marketing Got to Do with It podcast. My name is Gemma Adair, founder and principal marketing consultant at Riata Consultancy. This podcast aims to delve deep into the minds of sales and marketing leaders, uncovering what keeps them up at night and what drives their passion and how they execute successful strategies both in their personal and professional lives. I'm delighted to welcome John Burke, who is a marketing, commercial, and M&A consultant. Great to have you, John, onto the podcast today. Thank you so much.
Hey Gemma, great to be here.
Good stuff. Well, without further ado, please introduce who you are and what you do.
Yes, my name's John. I'm based literally in the middle of England, a town called Ashbourne in Derbyshire. For the last 6 years, I've been working on an interim basis, dealing with customers, helping clients, many of whom are private equity backed, get through the muddle of they've acquired a number of businesses, they've got multiple brands, and they've got a wide range of customers that they want to reach out to. And I help them from a marketing and commercial point of view, reframe or kind of refocus the businesses to their core strategy, help them understand their target audience a bit better, and then develop a marketing strategy and help execute that strategy in the right way that's appropriate. Yeah, so that's a little bit about me.
Perfect. And just out of curiosity, when and where did your marketing journey begin? Take us back.
Oh gosh, that was a long time ago. After I graduated out of university, I went on to like a graduate scheme, and I worked for an engineering company based out of Germany that put me in the marketing department. I'd spent a year before then during my university year out working in the marketing department, and I really got the bug for it. Um, Realized it wasn't just about creativity and advertising and things like that. There was so much more to it. I had a really good mentor, a guy called Stefan, who helped me kind of ground reality on top of the theory that I'd learned. So, actually putting it into practice, internal presentations, engaging with stakeholders, that sort of thing, networking and interacting within the business. And then that really set me up in a good way going forward. I put a lot of emphasis in those first few years on focusing on product and on customers. And that was, really good grounding for me.
Perfect. And just with that, with your background and your story, have you faced challenges in
Oh,
your
yeah.
marketing career? And if so, what were they? And how did you overcome them?
I guess the big thing for me and for any marketer really is balancing the kind of internal dynamics between sales and marketing and having hopefully within the business you get across the message that it's not just a sales assistance role, it's not a sales support function, it is very much um, a dedicated strategic function in its own right, very much the voice of the customer, the insights from the customer that then are fed back into the business to help with the strategic direction, in terms of making decisions on what products should we promote, what markets should we be operating in, who are the customers we're targeting, and who, on the other side of that, are the customers we're not targeting. Um, I think another kind of challenge I've faced very often in my career is the battle against discounting. Talking about price, it's very easy for companies to say we're not hitting our revenue targets, or we want to do a promotion to clear some stock, or to raise our profile, and to also react to competitive forces in the market. And the number of times I've had conversations about pushing back against that, be slow to discount, reinforce and hold the line on your price position, make it really clear as to why you offer the value you do and what customers get for that. Those can be some challenging conversations, but the reward is actually when you demonstrate the argument with the data and focus perhaps on profitability rather than revenue, to kind of help steer the ship internally. So it's a challenge, and it's not an uncommon one, but it's something that, to be honest with you, I quite relish.
And it's interesting you talk about pricing and your pricing strategy and so on. And I think with a lot of companies or even individuals, they undervalue themselves in
Mm,
terms of what they price and with companies, the products and services that they sell.
yeah.
And I think to your point, it's important to kind of showcase and bring that value to the forefront, um, and how that kind of ties in with their pricing that they're charging.
Yeah, definitely. And pricing, as much as anything else, should reflect your position in the market and where you see yourself in comparison to competitors out there, but also, what sets you apart, what makes you different, and
Definitely.
any kind of discounting can potentially in the long term erode that.
Yeah, no, definitely. So just out of curiosity, with regards to marketing, what do you like the most and why?
What do I like the most? I mean that's easy. I love spending time in front of customers. I love
Yeah.
engaging with various different people across the business I'm working with or in, but also external influencers. People who write about publications or in the industry, or maybe sit on industry bodies. Influencing and engaging with these people is something I get a lot of reward out of. I enjoy it. We're all used to now hybrid model, and while I do feel that working at home in my lovely man cave here. Uh, it's a good use of time. It's really productive. I love nothing better than pressing the flesh, so to speak, and being face to face with people, engaging with them, listening to them as well, understanding what their concerns might be, what their actual customer needs are, where the industry is heading, so I can help my businesses stay ahead of the competition and truly innovate.
Nice. And what would you like, what do you like the least and why? If there's anything.
Yeah, sometimes it's the conversations that perhaps we take for granted. Like, for example, people saying that marketing's the colouring in department or the sales assistants and sales support. I've worked with a couple of really progressive businesses where sales has actually been a subset of marketing, and
Mm,
that's been really rewarding. It's actually been a really education for the biz dev teams that I've worked with, and they've really been up for it, so to speak, and they've had a much more customer focused approach, um, and also been very strategic at holding that pricing line we talked about and promoting
mm.
the value of the offering. Other sides that perhaps a little bit, yeah, not so good are the internal perceptions, but I like managing perceptions in terms of educating people within the business
Yes.
as to
Yeah.
what marketing really is. It's going out and listening to the voice of the customer, understanding the customer's view, not just of our business, but the industry as a whole and competitors, and then feeding that back with strategy and targeting, and then segmenting who we're going to go for, and then right through to execution through the 4 Ps.
Perfect. I love it. Music to my ears, 4 Ps. Woo.
There you go.
I think because one of the things that I wanted to talk about was the misconceptions. And I think you've touched upon, we're not just the coloring
Mm.
team or people that color in. Is there any other misconceptions that you think marketing or sales has within the industry?
I think I've joined businesses and worked on projects, and almost right from the off, they want to make some changes. They want to change like the ad campaigns or some marketing collateral, change messaging, that sort of thing. And oftentimes, actually, I've kind of resisted that in the sense that it's good to be consistent. If you've got a
Mm,
message that you want to get out there and you've been promoting that message for 3 or 4 years, it's not necessarily a prerequisite to change that. There are some really strong consumer brands out there that haven't changed their strapline or their messaging in decades. The first one that springs to mind is Gillette. I think in the late 80s they created the best a man can get, and it
best
has
a man could get.
that one ever since. Similarly with Kit Kat is another good example. Have a break, have a Kit Kat. They're
Yeah.
using that and they own that space.
Yeah.
Nobody else can compete with a break time chocolate snack. Kit Kat own that. Similarly, with Gillette, they've positioned themselves as the best they can
Mm,
get when it comes to facial care, and that smooth shave. And if business can do anything in terms of holding its position and maintaining that message, then you're forcing the competition to work around it, and that's a really strong position to be in. So why would you give that up by changing at the drop of a hat?
yeah, definitely, definitely. And I think that's why, when you are in that role, you have to push back. And, that education is important and kind of validating and kind of positioning things as to why you're doing them and so on and so forth. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Speaking of
I'm the same.
validating, it's interesting because again, I often speak with customers who or businesses, and they think they're not
Mm,
customers, and
yeah,
oftentimes they do, but they don't carry out quantifiable, measurable market research through a third party to understand the trends or the opinions that a customer might have. And an
yeah.
NPS is a good starting point. Asking would they be how likely would they be to recommend the company to a colleague or a friend. But then asking that follow-up question about why they gave that score is really, really valuable data. But then further market research that allows you to understand in detail customer personas, the tone of voice, that helps inform marketing strategy and execution going forward as well. So a number of companies kind of bypass that because they have this assumption that they know, but actually more often than not, in my experience, you will always uncover a hidden gem that you can then inform your marketing activity that you perhaps you'd overlooked, not really quantified. And as you do that on a regular basis, you can measure the improvement you're having in the market beyond the classic revenue and market share.
Exactly. And for those that don't know, NPS is Net Promoter Score for those that
Yeah.
don't know what
One.
the terminology is. But yeah, no, exactly that, exactly that. What does a day in the life of John look like? Take us through your day from the minute you get up to the time you end your day.
Well, it starts with walking the dog and feeding the fish. And then
Yeah.
after that, once I'm in work mode, um, usually have a kick-off call with the team to 5, 10, 15-minute call to plan the day ahead, understand what our key objectives are and any potential hurdles. And then I make sure I spend a bit of time with customers. I usually have one or two customer calls planned a day to follow up on tenders and bids or projects that we've won. Um, Customers that are in scope at the moment and customers that perhaps aren't in the market at the moment, but in a year or two might be. So we want to stay top of mind.
Mhm.
Other than that, having conversations with other key people in the business, usually, ops or tech, to make sure that they're aware of what we're doing. And then other than that, getting on with the work, executing is really important. Um, what else is there? Oh yeah, and there's also usually some networking as well at the industry level. So
Yes.
talking to industry bodies, usually one or two calls about that each day as well.
Perfect, perfect. I think there's a lot there. Yeah, it's never a dull moment. Very
Yeah.
cliche, but in a marketing or running your own business, there's never a dull moment because there's you wear multiple different hats, and I think with marketing, we're internal comms, stakeholder management, and external. We keep the ball moving essentially with what we're doing, and it's important to bring all of those different stakeholders together
Mm.
and kind of having those conversations, keeping things moving along. Um, Going back to sales and marketing, I say this in all of my podcasts, and I'm a firm believer in it, and I believe you are too, John. Um, I'm a firm believer in sales and marketing alignment. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, ultimately, you want to, from a marketing point of view, generate inquiries and leads, generate demand, and then see that through the pipeline with the CRM system that you've got,
Yeah.
and work closely with the sales teams. But I think it's a two-way conversation. So sales want, they want content, they want promotions, or they want materials, they want campaigns. But what we need to be feeding into them as a marketeer and as a marketing-led kind of group of individuals really is making sure people are aware of why we're doing certain things in a certain way, why key messages are there, and that's why it's so important to have customer back data because it's that famous phrase, isn't there? In God we trust, in everyone else we believe in data, and it's really important that you have data to back up your arguments, to back up your customer understanding, and to inform your decision making rather than coming up with assumptions all the time. So marketing and feeding that into to the audiences as well.
Definitely. And I think you will agree with this as well. It all kind of ties in with strategy, right?
Mm.
When you're putting a strategy together, looking, forward on the year ahead, or the new year, that sort of metrics and that data can really dictate or give you some insight as to what, your priorities and what you should be focusing on for the new year ahead. So yeah, data.
What
Yeah.
I would add to that is that it's important once you've agreed the strategy, stick to it. I mean, I've worked with
Yes.
businesses in the past where, 6 months down the line, something happens or the numbers might be not
Yeah.
what they want, and they decide to do activities that sit outside of the strategy. And discounting is a very obvious example, or other kind of promotions or campaigns, and they're not in line with the strategy. And the problem with that,
Mm,
it's then really hard to get back to the core strategy, and to what really ticks. And you then perhaps get into the habit of changing course on a regular basis, and
yeah,
that's quite distracting, not the best use of resource all the time, and actually can be quite costly because you're using up extra resource that you may have
definitely.
allocated elsewhere, may not initially have allocated. So agree a strategy, be really clear on it, poke the strategy, challenge it by all means, and put it through some critical thinking. But once you've agreed that strategy, stick to it.
Yeah, no, definitely. Obviously, like with regards to the activities might slightly change in that
Of
sense. You
course, yeah.
pivot.
The
But
task,
yes, like you said, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Strategy is key to have in place and to kind of stick to, and that everyone is on the same page with
Mm,
regards to what that looks like and what that is. How
mm.
do you stay up to date with what's happening in the market?
Yeah, good point. Good question. So I go on a lot of courses, probably once or twice a month. I'll attend a webinar, or I'll actually attend an event. I was at an event in London a couple of weeks ago, and that was really good, looking at some trends. I mean, everyone's talking about AI, and I get that, but
Yeah.
actually, what was really interesting about this particular event of that was the effect AI is having on various different industries, like, for example, customer service, and actually
Mm.
how sticking with traditional methods can still be advantageous, even
Yes,
in the face
yes.
of the technology that AI brings. So that was a really good couple of days. So I tend to, yeah, at least once a month, I'll have a day in the field, so to speak, learning about what's going on in marketing.
Great, great. And work-life balance. How do you create balance between home and work? You
Yeah,
mentioned earlier you've got your man cave.
yeah.
Take us through, yeah, probably referring back to the day in the life, right? Like what's work-life balance? What's your thoughts? How do you ensure?
Well, I'm
Yeah,
fortunate enough that I've got a really nice 20-minute walk outside my front door. So at lunchtime, I'll make sure I do that.
brilliant, brilliant.
Dog. That helps clear my head, particularly after a busy morning, and in advance of a challenging afternoon, just to clear my head, make sure that I know what my priorities are. When I work from home, and if the kids are around, I'll have lunch or tea with them, and make sure that my gadgets are away. And then me and my youngest son were big into climbing, so we usually hit a wall a couple of times a week,
Brilliant.
after a day at work, just to let out some stress as well and to forget about work.
Great. You just mentioned there, I just caught heat of you saying gadgets. What do you mean by gadgets? Are you
Oh
a
well,
game? Like, do you play games? Like, what's your thing?
yeah, the smartphone's obviously the
Yeah.
number one gadget, taking up a lot of
Yeah.
my mind space. And yes, on there are games that perhaps bit of a waste of time sometimes, but also chess or Tetris is pretty good for the mind. Sudoku, I'm a big Sudoku fan,
Yeah,
so
love it.
that's pretty good. I usually do one or two Sudokus during the day.
That's great. Just out of curiosity, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Well, I certainly didn't want to be in marketing. That's not the sort of thing you think about when you're 10, right? I definitely wanted to be a footballer. That was,
Footballer. Okay.
yeah, that was next. And then failing that, a golfer. And then failing that, a spaceman. But here I am.
Hey.
But in all seriousness, actually, one of my friend's dads was a watchmaker when I grew up. And I actually wanted to get into that. And it's a bit of a hobby of mine. It's not something I've actually made any watches, but I understand the workings of them. I know perhaps how to repair a watch, and yeah, it's something that's a nice little bit of a hobby on the side.
I'll be on the side. What football team do you support? Out of
Well, I mean,
curiosity.
yeah. So at the risk of alienating the market who don't support Liverpool, I'm a big Liverpool fan. Have been since I was four,
Yeah,
and I can measure various different stages in my life based on aligned with various trophies or not that Liverpool have won. I try and get to as many games as I can, usually 4 or 5 a year. A
nice.
couple of European matches coming up. So I'm really excited about that. They're in a good place with their new manager. I think there's some more testing matches coming up, but so far so good. And it's a great example, I think, actually, that business can learn of when you're bringing in change and you have changed people. They're sticking to core fundamentals. He's not changed too much. I think he's
Mm,
some mindsets, but also he's made some slight tweaks. He's not done anything too radical. In fact, if anything, the most radical thing I think he's done is not change the team too much. And you can see each game, maybe one or two places changed, but that's it. There's been a few games in a row where it's been the same starting 11, and he's stuck to what's done well at the team without changing too much. That's radical, and I think there's a lot we can learn from that.
nice. And if you were a footballer, what position would you play?
I've been a probably not number 9. I've been a number 10. So yeah, I'll be creating a lot of assists and getting a good few goals myself.
Nice one, nice one.
Yeah.
Um, what is your passion in life and what drives you?
Well, drives me. I think I'm pretty certain I'm a good people person. I enjoy interacting with people. I'm driven by achievement, that sense of having done a good job, working well with the teams. A lot of the projects I work on have a marketing team in place that need perhaps a bit of coaching, a bit of mentoring,
Mm,
helping them to set priorities and fend off some of the internal conversations that we talked about
yeah,
earlier. So that gives me a sense of purpose and achievement as well. And to be able to walk away from that having done a good job and set in motion some really good plans and activities and given them really good grounding, or built on some solid foundations already in place. Other than that, family, hobbies, friends, yeah, just having a good time really.
oh, that's great. That's great. If you could speak to your younger self, what would you say to them?
Um, Take risks. Don't be afraid to take risks. Certainly at
Mm,
a younger age, I wish I'd certainly I wish I'd started a business at a younger age, and perhaps got into something a bit more hands-on, creative, like making watches or boats, even that sort of thing, small boats. So yeah, be a bit more risk, take more risks.
nice. Where can you see yourself in 5 years, let's say?
5 years time, more time traveling, more time working with various different people. I really enjoy what I do. I enjoy the
Mm,
variety of the work I do. It yeah, I get out of bed thinking about what I'm going to do today. I've got a real sense of purpose and achievement. Uh,
nice.
and I love, going to bed, having done a really good day's work. That's really rewarding. And over the next few years, I just want to do more of that.
Great. No, that's awesome. You mentioned there about traveling.
Mm.
Um, when you go on holiday,
Mm.
where would you go? What would you like to do? What's a holiday for you?
Well, the classic, certainly when you've got a family, is a beach holiday, right? But
Yeah.
as my wife would tell you, I'm very restless. By the time I've had like 15 minutes in the sun, I want to do something, either go for a swim or go for a walk. And
Yeah.
invariably, my ideal holiday destination has a beach, but also it's got some hills to climb or walk, and
Nice,
a nice
nice.
lake to walk around, that sort of thing. So, or even some islands to get in a boat and go around. So Croatia is a particular popular destination. It ticks all these
Ah,
boxes. Mexico's pretty good as well. Parts of the US are great. So yeah, there's a wide range of places I would go to. Even toying with going to somewhere a bit colder like South America or Iceland as well. Iceland in particular is a great location. I've spent a couple of days in, but I'd like to spend more time in.
brilliant. And do you sort of read a book when you're on holiday, or is that a no-no given what you said about being restless?
I'm definitely a reader, as you can see, the bookshelf behind me. And this is only the half of the books that I've got,
What's
right?
your favorite book?
More.
Do you have a
Um,
favorite author, or what kind of books do you like reading?
I like reading anything that will kind of educate me or challenge me, but also I love a good novel, right? So,
Yeah.
Stephen King or John Grisham from a novel point of view.
Yeah, John
But
Grisham, yeah.
I finished ages ago a book called Legacy, which is about the All Blacks. But there was some banter on one of the LinkedIn groups with some friends, and so I picked it up again, and it's really good. Like for example, when you first get into the All Blacks squad, you get called up. They give you your jersey, but they also give you a broom, and with the broom, you're supposed to sweep up the dressing room after your
Oh,
teammates. And
oh,
actually,
interesting.
even the senior players in the squad will still sweep up the dressing room. They don't leave it to anybody else. They
I
pay
love
attention
that.
to detail. They take pride in the shirt. They make sure that the dressing room is spotless at the end of a match. And again, I think there's some real strong leadership skills there. They lead by
That's
example.
brilliant.
And so, yeah, it's a great book. James Kerr Legacy: What the All Blacks Can Teach Us About the Business of Life. I highly recommend it.
Ah, that's really great. I think what kind of what you're referring to there about, regardless of where you sit in the
Oh,
organization or wherever you sit in the club, as a team, whether it's football, rugby, whatever, you get stuck in, you get involved. It's
yeah,
teamwork. It's about, regardless of where you sit, you just yeah, get on with
definitely.
it
Yeah,
and
I mean,
contribute.
if you aspire to be a leader, even if you're at the bottom rung of the ladder in a company, act like a leader at that level, and then just work
Yes.
your way up over time. But that attitude will get noticed for sure. So pay attention
Brilliant.
to detail, be positive, have leadership attributes,
I
even
love it.
a 21-year-old entering a business.
Oh, I love it. If you had a chance to be a superhero or
Oh,
have superpowers or a superpower of sort, who would you be and why? Or what superpower would you have and why?
I'd be the invisible man simply because
Yeah.
you get on a plane and travel anywhere in the world straight away. I could also make sure I watch my football team every game and sit in the dugout in an empty seat. And maybe if, at the moment they don't need any help, but if they were struggling in the match, I could give the ball a nudge in the right direction, which would be great. Um, and I could, sit in on some meetings. I'd love to be on the fly on the wall on certain events. So, yeah, that's my, ideal superpower.
I think that's a great superpower to have. Yeah, for sure. If you had to ask the audience a question, what would that be?
I'd certainly ask them what they're reading at the moment, what their ambitions are, um, and I'd ask them what problems I got. See if I can help.
Yay. Do you have any final words that you would like to share?
Um, Never be afraid to ask for help. You never finish learning. Um, have a mentor, but also have mentees to pass on your understanding and expertise and knowledge, and people will benefit from that. And whenever I've had a mentee, I've learned as well. I learn from passing on my experience to other people. Listen, there's that classic phrase, isn't there? You got two ears and one mouth, so use them in that ratio. Always listen, ask questions, be curious, never stop being curious. Yeah, and visit customers. If you're thinking about being in business and you're working, visit customers, go on their journey, see your business through their eyes, and I guarantee it will inform you going forward.
That is great. I knew there was a reason why I wanted to get you on this podcast. Loving your energy. Love it, love it, love
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you so much, John, for taking the time out to be on the Riata Consultancy podcast. Like I
Thank you,
said,
Gemma, for having me. Thank you so much.
I knew there was a reason why I got you on here. So there's just been loads throughout, this 30 or so minutes that you've given to the audience. So please continue to show up as you're doing, and thank you for being an advocate for marketing and sales and kind of driving that whole kind of agenda and then changing the narrative of how things are perceived, and
Yeah,
it's really wonderful.
brilliant. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. Take it easy.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.